Good morning, my wild and beautiful friends. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're taking my 1 bowl focaccia recipe down Sweet Street. I'm going to make you a delicious plum and dried fruit sweet focaccia bread. It's perfect for breakfast or with afternoon tea. Keep on watching to see how we make it. Alrighty guys, to get our focaccia bread going, we just need 2 cups of warm water in a large bowl and 1 packet of active dry yeast. We're going to stir that together a little bit, and then I'm going to add a bit of sweetener to help the yeast to activate and to also sweeten up our bread a little bit. In the savory recipe I've been making, I use about 1/2 tablespoon of granulated sugar, so you can of course use that, maybe up it a little bit to 2 tablespoons to make it a little sweeter, but I decided to try this organic rice syrup. Thought it might make it a little bit more molasses, caramely, subtle sweet. I think that's a term. It ended up working really perfectly though. So if you've got rice syrup, definitely try it. If not, granulated sugar will work just fine. And once I've got this stirred up, I'm going to let it sit for about 5 minutes just to kind of let everything start to activate before we add the rest of our ingredients. So now that it's been about 5 minutes, I'm just going to add in some salt. We've got a 1/2 teaspoon here. Our dish was a little wet, so I'm trying to get it out of there. And then I'm going to add a tablespoon of olive oil. Kind of sticking with tradition here with focaccia. Even though it's sweet, I'm going to still use olive oil for our oil today. And then I'm going to slowly stir in 3.5 cups of flour, doing about 1 cup at a time. It's what I love about this recipe so much. You literally stir it, let it rise, and it's ready to go. You don't need to use any mixers. You don't need to use multiple bowls. It's super simple. So after we've incorporated all of our flour, you can see it's still a little bit sticky, and that's exactly what you want. Just making sure to get all that flour off the edges there. Then we're going to drizzle it with about 1/4 cup of olive oil. I'm using about half for now. I'm just going to try to coat that dough in the oil. We're not trying to mix it in. We just want all of the outside edges to be coated in olive oil. So once we get it going here off the bottom of the bowl, we'll add the rest up, and it helps to take the lid off. Add the rest of the oil, stir around our dough ball and get it nice and coated. And before we cover it, I'm just gonna take the dough that's kind of stuck on our spoon and scoop it off on top of the dough ball so we don't waste anything here. And it'll rise just fine with the rest of the dough. And I'm gonna cover it with a tea towel, and we're gonna let this rise in a warmish place, as warm as you can get it in the middle of winter, for about 1.5 hours, and we will be ready to decorate and bake our focaccia bread. So while our dough is finishing up rising, I'm going to get together our toppings for our sweet focaccia. I've got these plums that have been sitting in our freezer. They're from our trees in our backyard. I have a video of how I preserve them. So simple. I'll link it above and below. But I've let these defrost most of the way. I'm just going to plop them into, well, ever so delicately and gracefully plop these into a little mug so they're easier to work with. You can also use apricots. You can use canned fruit. I think stone fruit works really well, so like peaches, plums, apricots. But honestly, use whatever you've got on hand. It'll work. And then I've got these dried figs and some lemon, because that goes so well with the plums. And I've also got a few little dates here I thought I'd cut up and add some sweet little gems to our focaccia. Just gonna slice these lemons up. I wish I would have done them a little thinner so they candied a little bit more, but they added amazing flavor to our bread. So just gonna slice this little guy up, and we will be almost ready to go. Okay, our dough is risen. We are ready to go. I have got a sheet pan here that I've sprayed with some spray olive oil, and we've got our gorgeous dough that's at least doubled in size, possibly tripled in size. It's so pillowy and soft and smells yeasty and delicious. So I'm just gonna plop this right onto our cookie sheet. Look at all those air bubbles. This is seriously the easiest and most delicious bread to make. Then I'm just gonna take my fingers and spread out our dough to the edges of our pan. You can use a thicker pan if you want it to be like a thicker bread, but I really like the cookie sheet thickness, if that makes sense. So I'm just gonna kind of press my fingers in so we get that signature focaccia texture. And we're just gonna start decorating. And this is where you can just go crazy. It's super fun to do with your kids. It's a really lovely way to make something so simple, very, very gorgeous. And once your focaccia is loaded up as much or as little as you'd like with fruit, I'm just going to do a little sprinkling of granulated sugar to kind of try to candy those lemons a little bit and give a nice crunch to the crust of our focaccia bread. So probably about 2 heaping tablespoons for the entire loaf of bread. And then we're going to bake this little beauty at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 minutes. You want the top of our focaccia to be nice and golden and spring back up when you press it. That's how you know it's done. I mean, look how gorgeous this focaccia is. I have no idea why it took me so long to make sweet focaccia bread. It's a game changer. So we're just going to cut ourselves out a decent sized piece and see how pillowy, whoa, how pillowy and soft. The parts where we put our fruit is a little bit more moist. The rest is nice and pillowy and focaccia bread-like. Got myself a cup of tea here, and I'm going to add a bit of currant jelly that Steve's mom made. This is like insanely good with this focaccia. It just takes it to the next level. So I'm adding a little bit of that and a little bit of vegan butter on the side, and I'm going to have the most perfect Sunday afternoon snack. And that's it. You've got yourself a super simple, delicious focaccia bread for snacking or for breakfast or to take and share with friends. I'd love to know if you guys give this a try. I'd also love to know if you use different flavors and different fruits. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope that you're all staying safe and healthy, and I really can't wait to talk to you soon. Cheers.